Morning. I'm Jillian Mealy.
Good morning to you, Jillian. I'm Rob Schmidt here live in Parkland, Florida, right outside Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School here, the scene of this horrific crime this week. And just about a day and a half later, we're getting a much clearer picture of the person who carried out this crime, this young man, Nicholas Cruz, a young man with an obsession with guns, with violence, who boasted about killing animals, and who says that he committed this crime, told police he committed this crime and had demons in his head telling him to do so. A young man whose adoptive mother died just this past fall, who was expelled from high school here last year, about a year ago, and just 3 days later bought an AR-15, the rifle that he used to commit this horrible crime. We are also getting an outline of exactly how this all went down, a timeline, I should say, of how this happened on Wednesday, on Valentine's Day, when this horrific act took place. And it was a pretty fast-moving event as it went down. 2:06, the young man in the afternoon, 2 o'clock, 2:06 in the afternoon, he gets an Uber to the school. At 2:21, he enters into the east stairwell of one of the buildings here. Not sure how he got access into the building, how he was able to get in, but we'll analyze that a little bit later on. Gets into the building at 2:21, gets ready, prepares himself, walks out, and shoots into classrooms on the first and second floor for less than 5 minutes. Only about 3 or 4 minutes is all the longer that this shooting lasted, and he was able to kill 17 people and put more than a dozen others into the hospital in just that short period of time. And then he moves up to the third floor of the building. He drops the gun, walks back down the stairs, and runs out of this high school among all of the other students who are in a panic trying to get away from the bullets as the fire alarm is going off, as the shooting is happening. By 2:20, or by 2:50, I should say, he gets to a Walmart, which is right near campus. He hangs out there. He gets a soda from the Subway at the Walmart. And then at 3:01, he gets to a McDonald's nearby there. And by 3:41, he is found by a police officer in a neighborhood right here near the school. He is arrested there without incident. And we go to his first appearance in court, which happened yesterday afternoon. And we see a cowering and a nervous 19-year-old kid standing there, which was just shocking to see him being consoled by his attorney after committing such a heinous crime. A young man charged with 17 counts of premeditated murder at this point, and his attorney actually showing some compassion for him.
He's a broken human being. He's a broken child. The sadness that this community is feeling, I mean, my children they go to school in this community. I feel horrible for these families, and Mr. Cruz feels that pain.
Well, it certainly is just a terrible, a horrendous crime that this young man is charged with. We also know that the FBI had a warning about this through a YouTube comment that was allegedly left by this young man months ago, saying that he was a school shooter in training, and also a lot of questions about what the school knew here. Obviously, this young man was not allowed on campus with a backpack. He was deemed such a threat. He had been expelled from here. How did he get into the school? How was that stairwell not locked up? These schools are supposed to be fortresses. You're not supposed to be able to just walk into a school anymore. A lot of questions remain to be answered. Jillian, I'll send it back to you.
So many questions. That's right, Rob. Thank you. President Trump planning to visit Florida as soon as the weekend after addressing the nation in a powerful speech offering his support to all Americans.
Our entire nation, with one heavy heart, is praying for the victims and their families. I want you to know that you are never alone, and you never will be. You have people who care about you, who love you, and who will do anything at all to protect you.
The president also saying he's committed to helping secure our schools and tackle the difficult issue of mental health. Just take a look at these faces. A football coach, a janitor, a freshman soccer player, and 14 others. We are now getting our first look at the faces of the victims of that horrific shooting. Marianne Rafferty joins us live in Los Angeles with some of the heartbreaking reaction and stories of heroism. Marianne.
Good morning, Jillian. Family, friends, and survivors gathering last night for an emotional vigil honoring the young lives lost, many of them in their early teens. All 17 now identified. They were athletes, dancers, members of the marching band, and volunteers. A teacher, the school's athletic director, and a football coach, all killed and hailed as heroes, protecting students from gunfire. The brother of Coach Aaron Feist struggling with the loss, as so many loved ones are.
Just, that he was a good man, that he loved people, he loved the kids that he worked for at the school, and that he wasn't afraid, to protect and to lay it down.
The community coming together at last night's vigil, attempting to shine light during the darkest of days.
Some of my friends won't get to see their brothers and sisters ever again. It was one of the worst days of my life. The worst day.
One of the victims' dads somehow finding the strength to address the crowd.
I don't remember if I said that to Jamie yesterday. What is unfathomable is Jamie took a bullet and is dead. I don't know what I do next. My wife is home. We are broken.
An unimaginable scenario for any parent. That tragic reality now facing 17 families. Another dozen or so others are still recovering after Wednesday's massacre. Jillian?
So sad. Marianne Rafferty, thank you. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi says Congress is complicit in the nation's gun violence. The California Congresswoman accusing Republicans of refusing to pass tougher gun laws just a day after the Florida school shooting.
It's an assault on our whole country, and they are paying the price for our inaction. Whose political survival in this body is more important than the survival of our children? Who of us in here is more important? Whose political survival is more important than that? Nobody's.
Pelosi now calling on House Speaker Paul Ryan to consider legislation that would expand background checks and create a special committee to address gun violence. Responding to Nancy Pelosi and her Democratic colleagues, former LAPD detective Mark Furman says there's a better approach. He says in this day and age, school security should be among the top priorities for districts across America.
I just think that there's a better approach. When you have retired personnel, they have the best part of their career behind them, and you need a generational gap that isn't 2 or 3 generations, perhaps just the better part of one. These officers on the school need to be able to interact with these students and get that information that a guy like Cruz would have surfaced and they would have actually confided in the officer. You need to get some kind of a system where you have protocols for all these schools so everybody is working off the same sheet of music, and you need to harden the inside target so the suspect can't get in, and you create the tactical situation for a shooter on the outside, which allows responding officers and the security officers to take out the suspect with no danger to the students. I think this is all possible without gun control.
Taking advantage of the Parkland shooting victims will not be tolerated. That stern warning from Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi.
If you think you're going to scam people during this tragedy, you're not. GoFundMe, they're monitoring every site that's popping up, and no money will be dispersed under GoFundMe until they know it's legitimate.
A legitimate campaign from the Broward Education Fund has raised more than $600,000 in just 13 hours. Attorney General Jeff Sessions vowing to step up federal gun prosecution in the wake of Wednesday's shooting.
I think effective enforcement of our gun laws, focusing on criminals and dangerous people, can reduce violence in our communities and improve public safety. We can and we must do better.
Sessions also promising to work with the mental health profession to assist in those efforts. The Justice Department, meantime, reporting a 23% increase in federal gun charges under the new administration. Mitt Romney expected to announce his run for Senate today. The former Massachusetts governor and 2012 Republican nominee for president expected to chase the Utah seat left open by the retiring Orrin Hatch. Romney, who has been critical of President Trump, previously planned an announcement for yesterday, but rescheduled after that shooting in Florida. It is 10 minutes after the hour. The shooter's shocking Instagram post detailing a twisted obsession for guns, violence, and even hurting animals. Dr. Michael Baden, a forensic pathologist, is here next to delve deeper into the role social media will play in determining why he did it. Applause for a cold-blooded killer. The disgusting video showing inmates cheering on a cop killer. And senators on both sides calling out President Trump after hitting a wall on immigration.
The only way I see a solution is for the president to grab the reins back.
There's only one reason why the Senate will be unable to reach a bipartisan solution to DACA: President Trump.
The blistering response from the White House. We are live in Washington. Investigators now pouring through the Parkland shooter's social media footprint, trying to learn everything about him. What clues are they looking for, and how will this investigation help stop future attacks? Joining me now is forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Baden. Thank you for being here this morning. Tough circumstances for sure. We were just talking in the break about how important it is to begin that he's alive, that he was that this police officer, this hero police officer, was able to take him into custody without incident.
He should be given an awful lot of credit for taking him into custody alive, because that happens very rarely. Most mass shooters get shot or kill themselves, and they're going to be able to study him, to talk to him. He seems to be willing to talk, to find out which of the many red flags are most important, because the FBI gets deluged with tips. Which tips are most important, how it happened. They also will be determining whether or not he acted alone, whether there was anybody else. And they'll do that in part talking to him, and in part going over the DNA with fingerprints and DNA over the gun, the ammunition, the cartridges, and everything that was in his backpack that would have clues. So they will check out everything that he says.
Now, let's talk about his online footprint right now, specifically the YouTube comment that he made talking about, and he even said and used his real name in this post, and you can see right there, it says, "I'm going to be a professional school shooter." Yesterday, the FBI addressed this. There have been a lot of questions about this. As you know, people are very angry about this. And the FBI claims there wasn't enough information to connect the online Nicholas Cruz to the real-life human being. I don't understand. Can you help us?
Well, I would think that the FBI is going back into that area and to see if there is any way they could have tracked him down. The problem is they get so many clues. There are only so many they can track down. There are a lot of people who make stupid comments. Most of them, most people don't act on them.
Right, but, and forgive me for interrupting, you look at that comment, you look at the posts he had on his Instagram, on his other social media accounts, pictures of guns, of knives, of dead animals. What are we missing?
Well, it's said that at 18 you're able to buy long guns, but you're still not able to buy handguns. And the photographs of his array of weapons, he has some handguns. So there's a whole issue there of how he collected the guns, whom he purchased them from. The sadness is, with all these stories about mental problems, he had never been adjudged to be mentally ill in a way that would affect his purchasing weapons. But the whole area of why 18-year-olds should be able to buy assault weapons is going to be addressed.
What is law enforcement doing right now?
Law enforcement law enforcement, the police don't want, the police I know that I've worked with, they don't want people to be able to easily get guns. There's now a real divide between National Rifle Association and the rest of society as to what strictures, if any, should be placed upon people buying weapons. And this has brought it out again, and maybe this time, since he's alive, since they can get more information for him, they'll